Welcome to CoBB, Conversations on the Business of Brands with Sudeep Chawla and Sharvan Raghavan.
But then all of a sudden, 2 years down the line, we got a history of that 2-year knowledge, everything, all the learnings came in. But suddenly there is a money also coming in. We know what to do with that money. And there is a good response from the consumer is also coming. This is where I should actually do something. Then I'll confidently go ahead and invest that money in the market. First has to come from the product market fit. There is some level of confidence has to come.
I agree. So I think that's where I kind of see the difference sometimes is like when do you really time that investment? And I think investment is the right word. But is your product fit like perfectly fine? Have you figured out that you're going to scale with that? And it's happening. And I think when to stop. Like many times when you start investing and you don't see that offtake or and you're not seeing that, you continue to keep doing it. But so I mean, otherwise when you invest and you get the return, it's like an investment and you're getting the return, you're getting the ROI, and you have a moving ship. And I sometimes see a challenge in brands that they keep investing, but I'm sure that the the returns are not really at the same time moving. And then what is that?
That's where again coming back to the same. Even I was adding the same thing that in the variable cost, if it is not going to the variable, we need to keep invest for getting that momentum of sale. Then fundamentally there is a problem.
Well, I really like what you said about the time, that you're buying the time and the growth. That's interesting.
Yeah, maximizing the impact and the time required.
Okay, I want to pick up after this whole burn, and I think the burn has raised the temperatures in the room, rightfully so. Now I want to pick up another topic which Puru alluded to when he started around portfolio. Yeah, so he had a trouble pruning down the portfolio. Almost all the founders want to innovate and want to expand the repertoire that they are offering to the consumers. Now that you've built some amount of familiarity with the brand, the consumer might be willing to buy other products. That is always the itch, right? And all of us have struggled with that. How much should you innovate? When should you innovate? How soon would you expand your product portfolio, etc.? Right? So now this is something that I would want to talk to you guys about. Let me first start with you, Sapna. You've seen in two companies building from 0 to 1. Now you must have started with one offering. When did you decide you needed an innovation? And then when did you decide you needed another one? What was the...
No, I'm just smiling because I don't really know the word innovation is the right word in our sector. Because I would feel...
Please don't innovate at our expense.
I'm just trying to, maybe I'll just kind of take help of some of the other brands also, and not just insurance.
Sure.
In terms of this, I feel innovation is when it is very natural. It looks like an innovation, but it is something like, jackfruit to banana chips, or, it's been progressive. Like, for example, a consumer journey that you've been working on. And I think it's all about the culture. And suddenly, for example, if you say video calling, okay, and as part of your journey, or using one of the tech interventions, and that's a natural step into your journey, and then it's like it's a successful innovation. So I think innovation for the sake of innovation is sometimes a lot of failure and
but that's a bit tricky,
challenge.
No? You want to be ahead of time.
Yeah, you want to. Yeah. I'm saying
like
the
he
same.
said, 2 years ahead. Not too ahead. Just 2 years ahead. But more importantly, you want to be ahead of time, yet you don't want to do so many things that they don't allow you to focus on your core business.
So, like something that I feel we were ahead of time when I was in ING, that we started this whole website in ING, which was basically we gave each advisor a microsite of their own. So meet your advisor. So we said, Abhi, we'll get advisors, we'll train them, and so on. Way before 2011, 12. And we all created microsites for these advisors, and where they could maybe write articles, put content, talk about themselves, and then also have an interface so that we help them get customers. Yeah, so it went off very well, became a big success across the ING world. We won a lot of innovation prizes across the globe, but then we didn't get traction with the distribution because they need to be ready for being able to leverage such a tool then. So initial hype um, fancy awards, and
CMO's job done.
CMO's job done, all the accolades. But as I think Manas was said, ahead of its time,
Sure.
right? And you had to make sure that you had the right people behind it to sustain it. And now you might call that innovation, but did it really ultimately create value? I don't know. Vis-a-vis other smaller things, which may actually have increased conversion, small steps in the journey which helped you kind of minimize drop-off rates, multiply your growth. But actually, those had more sustainable business impact than this,
Wow.
innovative.
Kind of a thing. Okay.
Yeah.
We get the innovation piece on insurance. What about you guys? Because when founders start, especially in GT distribution, there's this requirement to have a basket size to make it worth the distributor's while, right? So how do you balance between focus, like what Manas said, and just 10 categories, like what you said? Puru?
So I think, if you ask any founder or anybody for that matter, even in corporate, I think innovation is a good fantasy to have. Most of us believe that, and if you see in very plain, simple words, innovation is just a different way to do things, right? And innovation also in the product industry is a concept, is a misconception that it's only product innovation. There are different ways. There are commercial innovations, there are process innovations, there are different ways to do things. I think the problem that I've seen is most of us end up jumping onto a solution before actually finding out a problem. We just jump, okay, different way. Let's try different. Let's try different things. It's like jumping onto a solution, and we moniker is at an innovation. It's an innovation. It's an innovative way. Innovative can have both connotations, right? Positive, and if it works, suddenly you are claimed that it was an innovative way. Or other is, it's a learning outcome, right? If it doesn't work. So I think the learning that we have got is that first, if you can reach the core problem, if you can reach what is the insight, what is the problem, then you try and figure out a different way. I think that's, at least for us as founders, we have been victims of the same thing of always trying to do different things, just in a way to saying jump on to do something different without really validating whether the different way is still meeting the outcomes that you want. Sometimes you don't even articulate the outcomes. I think that's the piece that helps us. And when we are very clear of the problem, so when it comes to basket size, for instance, the moment you asked, that's not the problem. That's basically the real problem, if I look back, is the volumes, the minimum viable volumes for a distributor. Can happen with the same product as well if your offtake is there. But we always jump onto, okay, immediately, let's give him 2 products. Let's give him, somebody will say, why don't you launch a smaller SKU? Okay, fine, we'll launch it. The moment you jump onto solutions, I think that's an easy bit, because you think, okay, let me try. You don't realize that then suddenly it comes with the cost of supply chain, manufacturing, working capital. वो सब बाद में you realize, and all of it suddenly falls, okay, where's the cash gone? I think that's the piece on innovation. I think it's a tough one, but I think that's something
It's
that
a
we have to
powerful
build up.
point. So innovate when you have a problem, understand the problem well, and then see what solves for it.
Yeah. And sometimes you can solve for it without doing too much innovation also.
Yeah,
Correct.
exactly. Yeah.
So Manas seems to be solving it. Manas, what do you
Yeah,
think?
so the same thing, right? And I was really appreciative about that he put it in that exactly. This is one of the key problem that we face, because it is just a one category, the only variation that we have is flavor variations or probably a format variation. But it is end of the day, it is banana chips, and just distributors, we face this big problem. Like they wanted more product, exactly the same thing. But the problem there is that they wanted a decent volume to match it up with it, is making it viable. So we usually work around a lot of things on that aspects. Like our sales director, he work in terms of, initially we give some level of incentive to keep them motivated, and we push our salesmen and the end to make the penetration much more faster, make the retail entry much more faster, so that the decent volume will come in, so that we can actually make so like Puru said, right? The innovation cannot be in the product itself, but it can be on the process, or it can be on the way in which we executing all those things actually. Because one good thing about startups, I would say, is that we have the liberty to keep on experimenting a lot of things, and we are enjoying that really well, and that is one of the key things that giving us good results also.
Okay. So could you give us an example of an innovation that didn't work and an innovation that worked? Maybe not just product, including process?
Difficult to come out to do that, because if it is not working, we don't even think about it. We just move on. Seriously.
We raise it from the memory.
Yeah,
It
immediately.
never happened.
The meat product.
Meat product, yeah, that could be, but that is
Good
not,
idea, but just didn't.
Yeah.
Now a lot of startups are there in meat products. A lot
Yes,
of celebrities have.
it is.
And
yeah.
actually, if
invest
you go to
into it.
Asia and those countries, you'll be able to,
No, even in India, it is
Jackfruit.
catching up.
yeah.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
somehow it didn't work.
But somehow, yeah. But that's a different topic altogether. If you go into that thing, and then
Okay.
Yeah,
then
but-
let me turn my question to you, Sudhi.
Huh.
What Sapna said was the innovation was great, the idea was great, but the intermediaries were not really ready for that innovation.
Yeah.
You work in a business which is built on intermediaries, right? How do you handle innovation? Because the intermediaries, a lot of the time, are not ready for innovations. They don't like change. Nobody does. So how do you handle it there?
See, I think if you, when we look at innovation, etc., the core idea is that you keep intimate touch with intermediaries, keep understanding their delights, their pain points, right? When you're solving for a pain point that they have, then they are always happy to adopt anything that you give to them. Of course, you have to operate within the guardrails of giving them something which is not too different from what they are doing or is easy, provides them some kind of advantage in terms of economies, as well as maybe a profitability or reputational benefit, etc. But if you're solving for one of the existent pain points, it becomes easy for an intermediary to look at the advantages of adopting it versus the barrier of change in their current habits. But the key point is you have to be solving one of the current problems that they have. And I like Puru's point, if they don't have a problem, don't solve for it, right? Don't create problems just because you want to solve one. So innovation junkiness is something we want to avoid, right? And hence, too often we also say that, okay, what are the new chemistries? What are the new, platforms, innovation platforms that are coming up in the market? How can we marry them to some of the current problems that people have? Just because you want to use a platform, don't create a product or any kind of innovation. We always have an eye on the problems, and then inspiration to solve that problem can come from anywhere. But the genesis of innovation of any kind, process, business, product, comes from identification of problem. I think that's the core issue, and I really love the point that our panelists brought about on this one. Okay, excellent. So innovation done or not done for the right reasons. I think we touched upon this earlier, and I want to pick your brains on distribution. Too often, Sharan and I are accused of glamorizing marketing a lot and not talking about sufficiently about other business drivers, business levers, which are extremely critical, right? Distribution is one of them. In India, you can't win in any business without distribution. Now, distribution now has multiple names. There is offline distribution, online distribution, etc. But you have to make it reach. What has been your journey of going through this whole pains of building a distribution? How painful is it? What are the trade-offs you have to make while building a distribution? Traditional distribution is owned by large business players. It will be very difficult to break into their distribution channels. And how do you therefore find the right partners? What has been your experience thus far? Both sides, all online, offline. I start with you, Manas.
Yeah, sure. So I'll start with the partner things. Yeah, it is extremely difficult in building the right distribution and for a sustained period of time, right? That is why we are doing the distribution. Is that okay? We wanted to ensure that the product is reaching at the right set of outlet. Through that outlet, you are reaching the right set of consumers, and there is never a case in which we are losing out an opportunity in which a consumer is wanted a particular product and we are providing them, but we are not able to reach out to them. So identifying the right set of distributors is really important, and majority of the time, when we that's where our go-to-market strategy as well, right? The how to identify the right set of distributors and put them into action. One of the point is that we tend to identify a distributor. He's going to stick with us for a longer period of time. I think for a startup company like us, it is really, really difficult. I'll tell you why also. let's look at how the operational aspect of distribution works, right? We have a product, we give it to distributor, and the distributor is going to take it to into the retailer. But in between, there is a transactional aspect also, but whether who is going to invest the money in the market, right? So most of the time, we do it on advance, and probably the distributor is the person who is going to invest that money in the market, right? Then what is his viability is one aspect, and how that viability is going to match it with our scale also is another aspect. And we as a startup, like I said, we wanted to grow really, really fast. And we identify a distributor who is at around 2 lakh rupees, 3 lakh rupees kind of an investment capability. And those are the people who are actually can work with us in the very early stage. Is he a distributor who can sustain with us for a longer period of time? Practically no. Why? Because of course, he can invest money 2 lakh rupees in the market.
His capital worthiness is not so high.
Yes. After a point of time, we can support him to an extent. But then when we grow beyond 3 lakh, 5 lakh rupees, 6 lakh rupees, then he will be also finding it extremely difficult. Then we need to actually move. So there is a lot of practical aspect which nobody really, or people will come to know only when you start executing it at the ground level, we'll be able to realize it. Only the bigger companies like P&G, HUL, they are the real giants in this distribution game, right? They have the advantage of volume or the scale, right? So until we reach that kind of a level, it will be always a challenging situation. It is always, the challenger brand will always face that kind of an issue, and it is a constant problem solving mode that we were into. So on that angle, it is super difficult identifying. Then one phase we realize that okay, there is a great distributor, but then when we reach the second phase, then we realize we need to identify similar kind of a distributor. How are we going to do that? So it's a constant challenge over there. But yeah, I mean, I think there is no one-stop solution for that in that angle. As in when the problem faces, we try to solve it and move on is what I say.
So it is not a fill it, forget it kind of solution. Your point one, see it, and you're saying continuously you will have to keep doing something or the other.
Yes, keep doing, and no set rules for that. And second thing is that no one person distributor who is going to stay with us for a longer period of time. We need to keep doing it based on our business scale and our business operations level. That is the biggest disadvantage in a matter of fact if you see on a startup. But yeah, I mean, this is how startup or probably a challenger brand like us, and especially when there is only one category operations also, there is a lot more conviction that we need to bring in. Most of the time when we reach out to distributors, they will not be interested because we are only working with one category, one product, 3 flavors or 5 or 6 flavors doesn't really matter for them. How many number of products you have would be the question, and then it requires a lot of conviction. We need to bring that conviction in them, how the volumes are going to play. We need to show some case studies, like, how the other distributors benefited from us and all those things. But again, that distribution also is not going to sustain with us after a point of time, right? So it's a big challenge in that angle for a for a startup.
What kind of distributors do you go for? I mean, it's for both of you, because there are 2 theories on the kind of distributors you can appoint. So I got the chance to speak to C.K. Ranganathan of Kevin Kev, and he mentioned that when he started, the large distributors just refused to take his products. Said they have no traction in the market. And he worked with very young people or people who were new to business, and he even created distributors to distribute his products.
First-time distributors.
He just enticed them into becoming distributors. And a lot of them even stick with him till date. And in my podcast, he said my parting point for him was to say he's still looking to expand distribution after 30 years of being in business. So I think it's an ongoing game. So what kind of distributors are working for you, or who do you prefer working with?
So to begin with, right, we look for certain complementing aspect in the way of operations for our type of product. Let me explain what do I mean by that thing. Take this case in which he's created a new set of distributors, right? Will that be possible for Beyond Snack? Absolutely not. Why? Because it is just a one product. Second thing, it's a volumetry product. Third thing, let's say you create a distributor, he will be having all gung-ho about the product in the initial days, but it is not clearly viable because the space that is consuming for transporting the product is not going to give him any earnings out of that thing. So definitely one of the criteria is that we cannot go with a new distributor or a is only going to do beyond snack. We cannot do that thing. So we clearly avoid that, because we can add one distributor, but it is going to bite us back, right? Instead, what we usually does is that we identify the distributors who are going to the complementing outlets type, which is the type of the product outlet that we wanted to enter into, which is mostly class A outlets or a self-service counters or a class B outlets, up to class B outlets, and who does similar kind of a products, preferably not volumetric, so that he can actually save space, and those remaining space. This is more of a top-up type of a product, right? Ours is more of a top-up type of a product for me. He's already making a couple of lakh rupees of profit, and this is more like an extra income for them. Then it is motivation is there, will be there for some time. So that is what we are trying to monetize. So we usually evaluate on certain angles, like what are the type of the product that he's already doing, which are the type of the outlets that is doing. Sometimes in our team we actually advise to go out there and see that how is their presence in that outlets. For example, we ask them what are the type of the outlet products that you do currently. Then some level of sanity check we'll be doing the market to understand that whether the placement is done or how it kind of a serviceability is done. Because the problem is that it is extremely difficult for us to identify a distributor, but more importantly, when the distributor is gone or he is also making some mistakes in the market also, then even more problematic for us. So it is so the criteria wise, there is a lot of criteria that we check in. So it's end of the day, it's a little bit of a trade-off also we do. Okay, certain things will be right, but because end of the day startups, it will be difficult for them to get distributors also end of the day. Some trade-offs we will be doing, but certain uncompromisable stuff also will be there. But end of the day, we will finalize between.
Awesome. What about True Elements, Puru? How is your distribution set up?
So I completely in line with Manas. I think the one thing that I just want to add is, and it's very similar to a D2C site. Let's say, should you have your own D2C? A lot of times, founders are asked this, and it depends on the variability. So if you look at it for a new brand, and again, that's our point of view, new brand getting a D2C website business is very difficult because the variability, there are two variables, new brand and new site. Whereas I would prefer as a new brand to buy on Amazon because I'm sure of the backend. Now, if you draw the same analogy for a new distributor with a new brand increases the variability in the market. Saying, okay, the brand is new, the guy is new. If it was for, let's say for somebody like Mr. Ranganathan, the brand is probably still there, right? I have demand for the brand. I have salience for the brand. The distributor is just a supply chain guy who will come in, there will be money. I can't stop him. For a retailer, I can stop your money. I'll not pay you. What will you do? If you don't have the muscle to take money, then your working capital is stuck and the brand is stuck with you. And that becomes a big challenge for the market. And that's why we prefer distributors. So by the way, we still have distributors. I mean, and there are two distributors. One delivers his stock in a Mercedes, the other one in his Thar. But we know that, we might have to look for alternatives soon, right? So
That's like
when the CA files the financials. Yeah, that's brand love, right? Yeah, they'll do it, maybe not out of business, they do it out of their own volition. I love the brand. We want to know. We've met people who want to, they don't look at P&L. I mean, they justify, let's see, we are not looking at, which might not be sustainable, to be very honest. It's just that that's great emotionally, but commercially it is not viable beyond a certain point. So that's something that I think from a distribution is important. One piece, and I just must, I must take a minute and tell you that my connection with CoBB came from your series on GTM and distribution. I think you had a series of 3 episodes on GTM. I've heard it at least twice, each of those episodes, so I might just reiterate some of it. I think one piece I want to pick up on that is, one thing, Sudeep, you mentioned was quality versus quantity, right?
Yeah.
That's one piece that I think really matters. Very, very rarely do we look at the numeric distribution versus weighted distribution, how you may call it, right? That sometimes, because the currency in distribution is not the distributors, it's the retailers eventually.
Correct.
If you reach the right retailers, whether it is regional modern trade, top markets, class A outlets, there, if you are able to pick that, I think that's little important for us to understand, saying how big is distribution, because sometimes the weighted distribution is undermined in our quest to increase number of stores. We just reach out to stores without looking at, and if you see classic FMCG, I'm sure you guys would have also, when you do combing, what brands call it, trying to enter new markets, you look at surrogates, right? Enter the store with the surrogate of any proxy brand of competition. If this guy is there, then you enter the store. That's something that rarely I have seen, because the onus of distribution becomes on the distributor and the sales officer. get us to brands. And inevitably, the sales officer goes to stores of his previous organization saying, okay, I know the store, so I will enter. That math is not used. I think that's the piece that I would rather suggest. That's something that very rarely do startups look at.
This
Something
is
that
a good one. Huh? So you look at first the retailers you want to crack, then track back and say who
Mm.
is
The
more likely to
distributor.
give me access
Right.
there.
Yeah.
Manas also spoke
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
it.
Right.
So
And in
good
fact,
piece.
comes down to a point Manas made earlier about the cost to serve, right? The cost to serve in different markets is very different. And you've got to know where you want to invest in for your distribution. And I think that's the point you said for tier 1 versus tier 2 distribution, where you want to focus on.
Sapna, in your business, you spoke about a number of distribution channels. Now, many of those distribution channels might be throughputing much more than others, which is equivalent to what Puru was saying about weighted distribution. So this one, while the number of distributors are low, the business that they churn is fairly big. Now, we have seen, I don't have visibility to what is the kind of innovation that has happened on the distribution side. I know that a lot of D2C brands have come in insurance for sure, right? So apart from setting up direct connect with the consumer, are there other guidelines, are there other learnings from distribution that you would possibly want to talk to us about?
So I think I'm going to just go a little back on this one. So traditionally, if you see insurance, it was a lot of face-to-face distribution. I sit across the table, I show you the product, and I sell. Right. So that's what we call the F2F channel.
Okay, face to
Right?
face.
Face to face. Right. So face to face means like you talk, intermediary, and then you sell. You don't go off the website and you buy on your own. Right. So that's basically, if I come from a consumer, these are two behaviors. I talk to someone, I get the product explained, and I buy. Or I go and do my learning, my choice myself on the website, and I pay the money and I buy. Right? So if I just simplify it from the consumer, these are the two ways he can buy. He or she can buy. So let's go to the now, even now, around 90-95% is face to face. Right? The D2C, whatever valuations and all are happening, it's still small. Right? But now that's the whole trick, right? So let me go first because I worked in a lot of F2F distribution. I also now take care of the D2C. So I lead the e-com part of our business. And so there's a lot of interesting things happening there. Now, if I talk about D2C face-to-face, so we have, as we say, our agents or advisors. Then you have bank broking, all these different channels, right? The question there always is for an insurance company, who owns the customer? Right? If I'm selling to, say, Sudeep, and I'm the manufacturer, I'm the insurance company, you bought me through a agent, and that's how our relationship is, right? So for many years, it was like that. LIC, you never really interacted with LIC, right? You interacted with that LIC agent.
Correct.
And he would come to you at the time of renewal, whatever.
That was a comfort factor also, right?
Comfort
You don't have to deal with such a company. It's always intimidating for a lot of people, and the agent was more approachable.
So you were always
anything.
that agent's customer.
Right.
Yes, true.
Right? So the customer, and then, basically there's a lot of renewal commissions also. So every year you paid, he would get commission, which you never would know, basically. But they keep getting commission right at start and at renewal, and that's throughout your journey. So you sell once, you get commissions through the
lifetime value.
That's the
Yeah,
CL.
that's
the CL.
yes, yeah, absolutely. But for the distribution, from the company's point of view, okay, you're getting the premium year on year. You've had a cost of acquisition year one because you paid the commission to your distributor. Your year two onwards, that commission has gone down. So you are also, so it's like a happy situation. And that's how it works because the reach is vast, right? Now, slowly, gradually, then, once data started coming in and whatever, you want to say that I want to interact directly, personalized communication. So, so even then, if you would do a communication to your customer, traditionally, you have to keep the sales involved.
Sure.
Right now, again, similarly, if it's a bank team, you're selling through the Union Bank of India or Bank of Maharashtra, so on. That's their customer you're selling your product to. So you're basically, in a way, doing a B2B2C. I mean, if you look at it that way. Yeah. So that's one whole space. Now here, I would say the innovation or the growth is again getting new distribution. Right. For example, right now we're doing a whole exercise of getting more women into as our advisors, because typically you say health is a thing for women. They take care of the health of the house, the health and education. But how about getting insurance and finance also in their purview? So that's one thing that we are running, and we've been seeing a lot of traction that they start playing a stronger role.
Stronger
So
role.
getting more women appointed as distributors.
That's an
is
interesting one, huh?
Yes,
I
and
didn't
we've
realize.
yeah. So that's like if you like how you mentioned new distribution. So not traditionally new, but getting people to earn
ways.
Creating new influencers.
getting new influencers or getting them to say, okay, you can, and that's what this whole one space is. And that's one. Now on the other side, which is, I think it's also a lot to do with valuation, because it's good that you have your own proprietary channel.
Thank you for listening to CoBB, Conversations on the Business of Brands with Sudeep Chawla and Shravana Raghavan. Subscribe and learn more at cobcast.net.